Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. I feel an echo somewhere, and hopefully I won't feel it too long. I realize that I have a radio voice which is booming. Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness, I'm glad it's not booming from here all the way to Alaska. With that said, I have a great show lined up tonight. I want to welcome in my crew. First of all, this show is titled Topics Around Pro Football. Okay. Topics around pro football. What does that mean? Stick around for the show, and then you'll find out exactly why. Smoking Jeremy B, welcome back.
Good to be here. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Lots of great stuff I'm working on now with my new gig. On top of what I'm doing, that's over. I'll get into that shortly. Travis Holmes.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be back.
My pleasure. Mel Farr Jr.
Great to be back, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing really good. And last but not least, George Icorn.
Good to be here from the Motor City.
Yeah, and I'm wearing the Motor City Madmouth hat, but the red version of it. So, all right. With that said, as I said, topics around pro football. I never thought I'd be going ahead and leading off a show with this. But when there's a long losing streak involved, I have no choice but to do it. No, I'm not talking about the Detroit Lions. I'm talking about the Edmonton Elks of the Canadian Football League. How is it possible to lose 20 games at home in a row? My goodness. The Edmonton Elks, 20 games in a row. Jeremy Ballrick, I don't get it.
It's called not knowing how to defend your turf because you're not a team.
Any more you want to add to that?
No, that pretty much sums it up.
Boy, that's one of the shortest answers I've ever gotten out of you. I was waiting for more, and I got less. That's okay. I'm sure you'll save some of that smoke and steam later on in the broadcast. All right, Travis.
I mean, this is multiple seasons of losing, and that is just wild at any level of football. And the worst part is I actually know how that feels. Seeing as I have my UCF shirt on, I played for UCF back in 2003 when we lost every game in that season. So this is not something that's foreign to me. This is something that hits me right in the heart. And you learn what not to do in the season. You learn, where the deficiencies are once you go from a losing coach to a different coach, a winning program. I've seen both of those. So that starts at obviously the coaching. That starts in the front office. That even starts with the AD. It goes to the players, and from there. So it's not just one thing, but it starts at the top. So I'm hoping they can make some significant changes and just get the ball rolling. Just aim to be a 500 team. Let's go from there.
Well, it sounds so easy, doesn't it? What do you think, Mel?
Yeah, being 500 is easier said than done. They haven't won a home game, so they have a lot to make up. They just need to try to win one game. That's what they need to focus on, is just trying to win one game, and then you try to put a couple together and see what happens. But right now, their focus needs to be on winning a game, and it's unfortunate for those players that are having to suffer during this losing streak. But like you guys say, man, it all starts from the top. It starts from the top. So obviously they have a losing culture there. They don't know what they're doing in any phase of the game, whether it's front office, the ownership. They have no clue of what they're doing and what it takes to win, and they have no one there that's really a winner and can show them how to go about becoming a winning program.
All right, Jeremy, we know who's in charge of the chat room, right, JB?
Yeah, that's Brian Three Cushion. Hi, guys. He's viewing from my channel. Don't forget to check out the SouthFloridaTribune.com, Brian. That being said, I want to add on one thing. I wonder if the spirit of Willie Clay Ford has possessed that owner.
All right, George Icorn, is there anybody equipped to answer that one?
Well, the spirit of Willie Clay Ford was emblazoned on the Lions jerseys way too long, Jeremy. That's another subject for another day.
Yes, it is.
That crap's got to stop. I'm sorry. Anyways, no wonder I don't follow the CFL, Scott. I mean, they got losing teams like that. I mean, when you get in that territory like that, you got to look at yourself in the face and say, what the hell's going on? But I mean, as far as a head coach goes, they got to roll. They got to get rid of that coach and the coaching staff, bring in some new guys. You got to start something different. I mean, when Lions were losing under Rod Marinelli, and I said I was all for sweeping the floor and getting rid of these guys because, it's not that they're not good coaches, but they're sometimes not good head coaches. We've seen that so many times. We've seen a lot of Detroit Lion guys who were not good head coaches, but then Jim Schwartz, Marinelli went on to be good assistants somewhere else. But all I'm saying is that Edmonton, man, oh man, the Canadian Football League cannot afford to have losing teams like that because they're always vying for the buck there. It's not as big as we know as the NFL, the Grey Cup can compare to the Super Bowl, but it's their version of it. All I can say is, Edmonton, you better start looking yourself in the face. And like you said, Mel, you one win, one game at a time. You got to get that first win.
It's hard to believe that once upon a time, this team was the Edmonton Eskimos.
Oh, yeah.
and also Warren Moon was a quarterback. And Warren Moon, to me, got a raw deal when he didn't get in the NFL, but he used his CFL as a springboard to get there. And he was coached by Hugh Campbell, and they both ended up taking their axe and played for the Houston Oilers. So it's hard to really believe. It really, really is. What can I say? All right, next topic. Oh, this is a fun one. Okay, Philip Rivers having 10 kids. I know everybody read this one. And that's enough for an entire offense. Really unbelievable. All right, Jeremy.
That's what happens when Catholics follow the Catholic rule. There is no birth control, and she can't say no. So we know what he does in his spare time, because with 10 kids, it's been football and that other F word that we ain't allowed to say.
No, it's not like people can't figure it out, but that's a good answer without really going over the deep end. All right, Travis, I see you're laughing hard. We can get a straight answer out of you there.
I gotta follow this guy up. Okay, man, Philip Rivers, man, it's got to be yogurt at this point, right? Like, this is crazy. But I read in the article. Right? Yeah, I'm like, at this point, it's wild. But I think I read earlier when it first dropped that he has like one that's 21 years old, and obviously the youngest one that's going to be 1 month old or whatever. Yeah, to be born. That's a huge range. But if you can afford it, I mean, let's be honest. The vast majority of us, we don't have that many kids because, one, you can't afford it, and two, you probably just can't get enough help and you want some sanity. But if you can afford help, you have big family, he's a millionaire, and that's what you want to do. I mean, Godspeed, but good luck with that. But that is wild. And it's only his third boy. That's the wildest part. You got 10 kids and 3 of them and 7 girls. Whoo, Lord.
So you're saying he's got a WNBA team and half of an offensive line.
Yes, that's something.
That is funny. I like that. That was good. You, Travis and Jeremy feeding off each other real well. All right, Mel. I don't know how many kids you have, but I can't imagine it's this many.
No, I don't have 10, but I have 5. But more power to them. I say, and a long time ago, I made a decision. I didn't want to have any more kids. Kids are work, and kids are, you worry about your kids all the time. I mean, like I said, more power to them. I mean, that's just, I told my dad, I said, man, why didn't you tell me kids were this much worry, man? Just cause you to worry so much. If I would have known that, I wouldn't have had so many. Because kids are cute and they're cuddly and they give you all kind of love, and you can give them all kind of love. So I mean, they're just great. But when they get older and you get them out and they get outside of that little bubble that you have them in, that's when you start to worry about them. When they start to get older and start making their own decisions, and you listen to the news when you get on in the morning and all the different things that are going on. Especially since I have 4 girls and only 1 boy. So you hear all these different things that are going on. It's amazing. It's a wonder I can sleep at night, to be honest with you. So I can imagine, as he gets older. And I know he's a Christian guy, but still, as a Christian, you still worry about your children, and you want the best for them, and you don't want to have anything to happen to them. That's a lot. So more power to him.
Well, George, you only have two girls, that is, and they're all grown up.
Yeah, just two girls. We stopped at that. We've been blessed with two girls, but my wife came from a large family, 7 kids. I came from a pretty good sized family, 5 of us. I'm not totally shocked. The thing that really surprises me is usually I hear about this stuff a little bit earlier on. This one caught me off guard because I did not know that was even going on. You'd think like when he had 5 or 6 or whatever, that's some story. I mean, unless I just wasn't reading enough papers or online stuff, but that's what caught me off guard. I didn't know he had that many, but that's a tough nut to crack. That's a full plate, whatever cliche you want to say. He's got his work cut out, like you guys said, but he and his wife, they got my thoughts and prayers. I mean, that's going to be a tough job even going forward. Like Mel said, is when they get older and then you even worry even more about it.
Well, the only thing I'll say about the subject is this, okay? I have cats, okay? Never had kids. I'm too busted up through the years to even think it would happen. Who knows what would have happened there? But I'll give my credit to my brother Lonnie, 2 boys, 2 girls. So, right down the middle. And of course, now that family's expanded into the grandkids business and all that. So I'll take my cats all day long. It wasn't meant to be in my lifetime. All right. Before we go to the chat room, I just want you want to say something?
Yeah, Mel, I had 5 also, and I'll tell you what. You know why, right? Because it was fun making them.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to practice.
Yeah, the first one I was poking for fun, and she took me serious.
All right, so let me go over some particulars here, just so you know that Inside the Pigskin, okay, is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of this show, Inside the Pigskin, can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Well, go to the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find me on Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And coming up later this summer, the Motor City Mad Mouse Show will be debuting on the Eagle Corp Media Studios in Boca Raton, owned by Dr. Edwin Hernandez. We'll keep you posted. I happen to be the president of Media Studios for a technology-based company, so stay tuned for updates. All right, now to the chat room.
I still find that amazing that you're the president when you have the technology knowledge of, well, my 3-year-old.
That's what you call it. And you know what, Jeremy? You know what you call? That's called the broadcasting division.
I know. I was just messing with you.
Now that you brought that up, though, I got to tell you, which I really like about what you said. On Thursday, I brought, as Mel knows this, I think George does too, a MacBook. Is that what they call it? Pro or whatever?
Hey. Yeah, MacBook.
Yeah, I stepped up in class. And Edwin looked at me and said, "Man, you did pretty good." I said, "Well, I'm getting better with this technology thing." "No, you come a long way. You've really done good." And he's marveling at this machine. He really is. I mean, this guy is pretty sharp to be a doctor, and he's my co-host on that show. But no, hey, listen, I got some pretty good people taking me out of that thing you mentioned, Jeremy, about the 3 business. I'll be a lot further ahead in this thing if I hang around with Dr. Edwin and the rest of president's men and women.
I got to write my Computer for Dummies course and send it to you.
All the president's men and women.
Wait a minute. Hold it, Jeremy. I'll be graduating from that, so I don't worry about dummies. I'm getting a little better. Listen, when you got a guy this patient, and tells you, when I get angry at myself, I hit my hand on the table. He said, "Don't do that. Don't do that." And this guy's good. "Don't want you to hurt yourself. Don't want to. I'll take care of the technology. All you got to do is talk it right." Good for me. I'm happy. This guy's cool stuff. What are you talking about? He's got
Brian Roy, you're a little late because Phillip Rivers did retire over 2 seasons ago now. So he's retired. He had his 9th kid just before he played that season with the Colts, and now he's got his 10th on the way. And Ranting Q says, "What's up, Pete? What are we talking? We were talking about the losingest program since the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they expanded into the league. It's the Edmonton Elks of the CFL who haven't won a home game in 20 straight games."
very good, Jeremy. Good stuff. You didn't know. You know what, Brian? That's why people watch this broadcast so we can educate you. How about that stuff? All right, last topic I'm going to talk about before I turn over to Mel is Le'Veon Bell apologized to Steelers fans for leaving Pittsburgh. Says he shouldn't have left. Duh. Failed stints at the New York Jets, Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Bucks. He turned out to be a depth piece rather than a feature back, although he did collect a championship ring with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's a 31-year-old guy that didn't play in the NFL last season in 2022. All right, Jeremy.
Whew. Yeah, he made a big mistake. You know what it was? It was sitting out instead of taking his franchise tag, sending out pictures of him being on wakeboards and everything else. And it cost him that plus about $10 million off the next salary he could have had. So that was really that what he did that. It actually started the downfall of paying running backs. That is what devalued running backs, because they said, fine, if you can sit out on a franchise tag, because his franchise tag was over 16 million at that time. That was a hefty franchise tag at the time for a running back. Because that means that the top one was paid 20 and the third one was paid probably or somewhere between 12 and 13. That's how it averages out to that 16.5 million, because it's off of the top 3 when it's the exclusive tag. And he sat out.
Travis?
He's right to apologize to the fans because he's done playing. Any athlete, when you leave the fan base who basically made you great, and I'm not saying the fan base made him great, but that's the team that he played for when he had his greatest time in the NFL. It's no different than, I don't know, anyone. Like you got what's the receiver? You got Megatron, who's finally getting in good graces with the Lions, or really it's the Lions getting in good graces with Megatron. But you know what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. Normally, when someone's retiring, they're looking back on their career and they're looking back on their life. They want to make sure that they're not holding on to something, or someone else is holding on to something in reference to them. So I fully understand why he's apologizing to the fans in Pittsburgh. But let's be honest. Had it worked, would he be apologizing? Had he had some, all pro years in New York or in Kansas City or, all of that, he wouldn't be apologizing right now. He's apologizing because it didn't work. And in every circle of the NFL and all the fan conversations, we've all known this was a bad, decision for years. So this is not like new information. He's just looking back on his life, and rightfully so. He's figuring out, hey, maybe I need to just make sure I rectify this, for my legacy's sake. And I fully understand that. But to your point, Jeremy, with the franchise tag, they actually franchised him twice, I believe, in back-to-back years, right?
That was his first tag, and he sat out.
That was the first one?
Yep.
I could have sworn it was 2 in a row.
No, they picked up his 5th-year option the year before, and then he was tagged.
He didn't have a 5th-year option. He was a 2nd-round draft pick.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So it was at the end of his 4th year, right? And then going into his 5th season, they did his tag.
I gotta figure that one out, and that's the unfortunate part. I was trying to look that up. I could have sworn it was like he had already been franchised, and they were trying to do it a second time.
He may have. I don't remember. He may have.
I don't remember a first tag, but I do know that tag. He just said, "I ain't doing it."
Yeah, I know that tag was 16 million. I know that.
Yeah, and so
5 to be exact.
So they offered him a $70 million contract with with a $30 million guarantee, and yeah, I'll have to find it. That stinks timing wise. I just wasn't able to locate it, but I could have sworn it was a second tag. But nevertheless, the apology is because it didn't work. That's really what it came down to. And he was with a team that had an offensive line where it worked for his, he was able to slow play reads. He was able to, figure out which it's just his style of running. He was able to slow play it and figure out which hole to go into. And then he goes to New York, who didn't have as strong of an offensive line, and he wasn't able to find those holes and slow play. Like it's better for a running back to just immediately make that decision and get downhill. Stylistically, it didn't work, and by the time he's in Kansas City, he's a much older back, and it's just a different system. It didn't work out timing wise. Well, it stunk, but nevertheless, he apologized because it didn't work out. If it worked out, he wouldn't be apologizing today.
Well, the only thing I'll say before I turn it over to Mel is, number one, when you don't play with Mike Tomlin, that's a bad move. One of the best coaches out there. And if you wonder how things went for Antonio Brown when he left Pittsburgh, I say more. So go ahead, Mel. Take it from there.
Well, I mean, those are two peas in a pod. But yeah, obviously, right now, hindsight is always 20/20. So when you go back and you look at things and you can say, man, I should have did this and should have done that. And like Travis is saying, yeah, I mean, he, had things worked out differently, he probably wouldn't be saying that. But his best years were without question were in Pittsburgh, and he could probably still be playing, because I think he's only 29, 30 years old or something like that. I mean, he's not very old.
32, actually.
32. All right.
Yeah.
So I mean, he could have had some more productive years there without question in Pittsburgh, and then Najee could have came along. But it's unfortunate. At the time, I felt he was getting making a bad decision, whether he was getting bad advice, whether he made that decision on his own. I just felt that was a bad decision on his part to sit out the entire year, because, as football players, you need to play. You want to play and you need to play. And when he came back, obviously he wasn't the same kind of running back. And as Travis alluded, they were used to his style. That style that he ran the football with, their offensive line was used to that style. When you go somewhere else, offensive line is not used to that type of style, the running style that Le'Veon Bell had. And, everywhere else that he went, it just didn't work for him. So, yeah, I think it, had things worked out for him, and he validated that decision by going out, getting a big contract, and then having monster years. Then he probably wouldn't be, issuing this apology to the Pittsburgh Steelers fans. But because it did work out the way it did, and, you kind of looking back on it now and saying, yeah, man, that probably wasn't a good decision. We understand that. It's just simply because things didn't work out.
George, you have a final word on this?
There's not too much more I can add. You mentioned about Tomlinson, but don't forget another great coach this guy played for, Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State Spartans. I followed Le'Veon Bell's career. I always admired him. He was a great Spartan, and I know George Blaha held him in high esteem, the broadcaster. He made a mistake, like you were talking about, Travis. I mean, yeah, he admits it now, and it was wrong. Whether it was just him or whether it was his agent or who all made the decision, it was a mistake. And you guys are absolutely right. You've hit it all on all the top things that I was going to talk about. With you're talking about going to a different team, a different style of the game. But the bottom line is, he still got a ring. He still got a ring at Kansas City, so he's got something. But boy, he lost. He gave up on a lot of money and a lot of career years. And, you just feel bad for young men, young ladies in sports when they make up those kind of decisions and they don't work out. But from an individual standpoint, two great coaches. He should have stayed with all the things that those two guys taught him, and he would have been on the right track. Chat room, Scott. Jeremy.
Yep. Running backs in general are disposable now. Team principals won't pay them anymore. They might give a 1-year franchise tag, though before making a new move, Bell made a mistake.
Yeah, no doubt about
that. You're right, Travis. That was his second franchise tag.
I was just about to say that. I just found an old 2018 Yahoo article that was talking about it. It was his second franchise tag in a row.
But the first one was a transitional, and nobody traded for him. The second one was the exclusive.
Right, that's what made NFL running backs and players across the league start talking about the whole 3 franchise tag in a row rule in their negotiations. But yeah, this is curious. I didn't remember all this, so this is a good conversation, guys.
Yeah, it sure is. All right. Well, with that said, this conversation is going to have a new moderator, and it's called Mel Farr. Take over, Mel.
Well, that's a good topic that we're on, because that kind of segues right into what I want to talk about. With the tag, or excuse me, the deadline passing for franchise players to try to come to agreement with their teams on a long-term contract. Saw a lot of running backs that did not get long-term contracts. And I was just thinking about it. Out of all the positions, the franchise tag for running backs is the only one that's gone down. Every other position, the tag number has gone up. Running backs has gone down. And you hear the running backs and how they're talking. They don't feel that it's fair. The one thing that I don't like, and I don't understand why, I think the NFL probably has the weakest players union and CBA and the worst CBA out of all major league sports. How they allow this franchise tag to stay in there, because a player never really realizes true free agency if you have that franchise tag. You really can't go out there and test your worth with that franchise tag when you have to give up. If you have the exclusive franchise, you have to give up, I believe it was 2 first-round picks in order for another team to sign you. And I think even then, I think the team, I don't remember, I think the team still has an opportunity to match it, if I'm not mistaken. I have to go back and look at it, but I'm not mistaken. And then the other tag, I think it's just I think it leaves some room for negotiations, first round pick, but there is some room for you to negotiate that down, I believe, maybe. That's the worst thing that could be in the CBA is the franchise tag, especially for the running backs. And running backs now are in a position now where they take the most beating. They touch the ball second most to quarterback. They are expected to catch the football. They're expected to run the football, and they're expected to participate in the passing game and pass protection. So they have to know just as much as a quarterback in the passing game, except for where to throw the football, the progressions, reading progressions, and all that kind of stuff. But they have to understand who's blocking who, so they know who they have to block. So they have to know who everyone is blocking on the offensive line, and then be able to stand in there and block somebody efficiently, so that the quarterback doesn't get killed. They're asked to do the most, but yet get paid the least and are appreciated the least. So I understand these guys' frustration. I understand it from the management side, but I'm not on the management side, so I don't really care about that. These guys deserve to get paid their worth, and they're not getting paid their worth right now. If you want a guy to run the ball, you want a guy to participate in pass protection, and you also want to participate in the passing game, go out there running routes and so forth and so on, then he should be getting paid for 3 positions as opposed to the way that they're paying him now. Travis, what is your thoughts? We're kind of segued into this with the Veon Bell thing. What are your thoughts as far as the state of the NFL and the running back position?
So I thought this is a fun one. I made a video yesterday, just kind of hitting on this. You had Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, and
Nick Chubb.
I'm sorry.
No.
Nick Chubb.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. Oh, Saquon Barkley. Oh, the main
contract,
3.
And contract talks broke down with Nick Chubb too. They were talking about
but he had an extension back in 2021.
He had an extension.
Yeah, he was actually the last running back that had a big extension signed. Like, we've had no running backs have long-term deals signed in the last 2 years. My point is that no long-term deals over the last 2 seasons. That's wild. But
we're talking about franchise players. And you look at what they've done, even with Melvin Gordon, what they did with him, and how he turned down some money that was supposedly, on it, 14 million, 15 million, but he wanted some ridiculous money, and he hasn't gotten close to that type of money. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Travis.
No, I mean, but at the end of the day, you have a players union, and yes, and it sounds like it, and if I'm mistakenly putting this summary on you, it sounds like your main issue with all of this negotiation falls on the NFLPA. Would that be correct?
I think they have a large part to do with it. Yeah, without question.
Cool.
As far as this franchise tag, is concerned.
No, and I fully agree with you there. And unfortunately, they won't have another chance to truly negotiate this until you're talking 2030, when this CBA expires. So the real unfortunate part of all this is you're talking about a thing that's not going to impact realistically 90% of the players in the NFL, because you're really talking about that top end talent, the best people at their individual positions. Meanwhile, you have an NFLPA that represents the vast majority of these players who are, middle to bottom of the roster's player, because that's how the NFL works. You're going to have the vast majority of those guys be, the bottom roster, some of the practice squad players, some of the average guys who know the franchise tag is not going to impact them. So now you're having to make an argument for these guys to champion something that's going to help those top end guys, and that in and of itself is a hard sell unless you can find a reason. Like there's going to have to be something that they get back in negotiations for the guys on the bottom of the roster who know there's realistically no chance it's going to impact them, and that makes it a real fun negotiation.
True. Well, very, very well said. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
The exclusive tag, I thought they can't trade for you at all, and it was the transitional tag is where they can make the draft compensation, but yet the team that places the transitional tag, they have the chance to match or beat whatever offer is offered. Correct? Is that not the way I understood it?
You're probably. I'd have to look it up. I
think the exclusive tag means, hey, you're just ours. You can't go nowhere. You have to sign this or sit out.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, Jeremy. I believe that's what it is too.
Yeah. So it's the transitional tag where they can get all the draft compensation. And some players, yes, it does garner 2 firsts or a first and a third or a second and a fourth or whatever they decide is proper compensation for the player in question. My problem is I think it all should be transitional tag. There shouldn't be an exclusive tag. You should not have a tag where one team can just say, I got you, and no one else can have you.
You're right. But 2 first-round draft picks, and everybody talks about running backs. And, once, as a running back, if you're in a position where you're talking about getting paid 15, 16 million, that means, you have less tread on your tire. You don't have a full tread on your tire. It means you've taken some wear and tear. You've taken some pounding. So when you're trying to get that second contract, there are not that many Barry Sanders and Adrian Petersons, and there just aren't Nick that Chubb. Many. Well, Nick Chubb's a great back. There's no question about it.
Yeah, no, I'm putting him in that class.
I think Saquon's a special back. I've always liked Josh Jacobs. I think he's a special back. Melvin Gordon did some great things as well. I think Ezekiel ruined it for everybody. He really, he definitely ruined for everybody. With
Jerry Jones ruined it for everybody.
I was about to say, I'm like, I can't blame a man for cashing a check.
True. That's true. Yeah. Jerry Jones. Well, no, Jerry Jones ruined it. He didn't really ruin it for everybody because he blinked. So Ezekiel won. That got it back up a little bit. So that got the number up a little bit. But Ezekiel didn't perform after he got his money. His performance went down after he got paid.
He came back looking like he was on the Eddie Lacy diet after he got that contract. He put on about 40 pounds.
He looked like he was just running in mud. He wasn't hurdling folks anymore like he used to. Yeah, everything was slower.
His feet quit moving through the line, and he was getting nailed. There was a lot to that Zeke thing. When he got that fat check, he went and got fat.
I like the Eddie Lacy diet. That was good.
George, what are your feelings?
Well, I heard something interesting, and that is if you look back on all the Super Bowls since Seattle won, and you look back and see who the leading rusher was of all those games, you'll find out most of them were very low-paid running backs. The running back position has become a dispensable position. I don't agree with it, Mel. These owners and team management are treating it more like that. You're lucky to get 3 years out of the guy or whatever at that position. Look for somebody else. There are a lot of injuries. I know that. But when you've got the leading rusher in all these Super Bowls and what they made, it's appalling. It's appalling. And I'm only saying that because that means that the salary grade is what you originally started talking about, Mel, is too low, is not fair at that position. I understand what they're doing with it. I know guys get hurt a lot and, they move around a lot at running back, but It's still not fair. It's not. And these guys, like you said, they have so many roles in that game. To be a successful football team, you need a good running back. Maybe not the all-pro running back, but you need at least one or more guys that know how to block, like you said, know how to catch, know how to run, know how to do everything else that they have to do. So I agree. The position has been downgraded, and it's not fair to all the guys that are playing that position. And management is taking this stance. A lot of management, not everybody, but a lot of them are.
Hey, Jeremy, real quickly before Mel goes to Travis, your buddy up here wants to know what he's missed.
Okay, let's see. We talked about the Edmonton Elks of the CFL and how they've lost 20 home games in a row and how that's worse than the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers overall. Then we talked about Le'Veon Bell and the mistake he made and how he was doing the apology thing. Now we've transitioned into the franchise tag and the devaluation of running backs.
Okay. All right, Mel.
I pretty much get it all.
George, they said from what year was it that most of the running backs that led the NFL in rushing were lower round?
No. The leading rusher in the Super Bowl, if you look back, going back to when Seattle won, when did they win, guys? 2013 or something?
13, something like that.
Yeah. If you look back at the leading rusher of that Super Bowl, and I can't remember if it was the winning team or both teams, he is not paid well at all. You'd have to look up the salary grid to go along with.
What does that have to do with the price of tea in China?
Well, you want to know when I think it actually started the devaluing of the running back? It was after Eddie George. He was the last featured back for the Patriots, and then they went to a running back by committee. As soon as they started doing running back by committees and less featured backs on each team, the running back became devalued because you're not using a featured back anymore. You're splitting it up. Oh, this guy runs good. He's going to be our RB1. This guy catches good. We're going to put him in passing situations. This guy blocks good. We're going to use him in a passing situation. They keep switching them in and out. It's not fair to the ones that can do it all, is what I'm getting at.
I'm going to tell you what's going to happen at that position. You're not going to get the best players at that position because guys aren't going to want to play the position. They see all this stuff. If I see this and I'm in high school, I'm going in tomorrow, coach, I want to play linebacker. Because guess what? Linebacker is the second highest paid player as far as franchise tag is concerned. It's quarterback, then linebackers. So guess what? I'm going to play linebacker, coach. I don't want to play running back anymore. All of a sudden, I'm going to get the case of the fumbles. I can't hold onto the ball. I can't catch a ball. I'm going to have bored hands. I can't catch the ball. I can't do nothing. I can't hit the holes. I will be on defense within a week. I promise you, playing linebacker. I will no longer be a running back.
Well, we've seen this slow change into all these different intelligent money guys, these Wall Street guys, these computer guys, these analytic guys in the front offices of NFLs. And we've seen this from the Patriots. They've had their person. We've seen it with the Rams. We've seen it go slowly go across the entire NFL. This is what happens when you have all these guys who just look at the core numbers and they're going to figure out, hey, where is the money best spent? And if they're coming to the conclusion that the money's not best spent in an individual running back who can get injured, and instead just spend it with the lower amount on multiple running backs to kind of diversify how they're used, then that's kind of what happens. That's just the logical end result of, hey man, these guys are moneyballing this thing, and they just figured out this is the interchangeable cog in the machine. So cool. Like, it's just weird, but that's kind of how it worked out.
Look, let's be real. Anybody can get injured. Middle linebackers get injured too. Just as simple, as easy as a running back can get injured. Fair. Anybody, offensive linemen, they can get injured. I mean, they get injured all the time because guys fall on their legs. That interior line, they get hurt because people fall on their legs. Wide receivers, they blow their knees out running routes, trying to do things that they really shouldn't be doing. But video games do it, and they think they can cut like video games, and they blow their knees out. So I mean, be honest, anybody can get hurt. That's just really an excuse for running backs because anybody can get hurt. Some of the most durable.
But what is the drop off?
Players are running backs,
right? But what's the drop off?
When they get hurt, it's usually
major,
pretty devastating.
Yeah.
The franchise tag hierarchy, if I remember right, quarterback, linebacker, wide receiver, offensive line, tight ends, defensive line, defensive backs, then running back.
Is
Correct?
kicker right? Is kicker next?
It's quarterback,
Yeah, we're
linebacker,
spot
wide
on.
receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, offensive line, corner, safety, tight end, running back.
Yeah, running back is dead last in the franchise tag.
Right above
hierarchy is
kicker
what I
and
was
punter.
getting at. Right above
Right above
kicking and
kicker and punter and water boy.
I don't count those because how often does somebody
Oh, man.
franchise tag a kicker?
Actually, it's happened. Actually, it does happen because of
It
because of
but
the low
not a
number.
lot.
Yeah, it happened.
Hey, by the way, Travis, Brian agrees with you.
Yes, he does.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, your check's in the mail.
There you go. What else you got, Mel?
Actually, Scott, I only had one topic today, and I appreciate the time and I appreciate you guys' input. And Scott, I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mel. You know what? It's amazing how some of these things segue so well. They really, really do. And, you know, like anything else, it's hit and miss on some of these. But I think the one thing that we can definitely learn about this show when you summarize things in their perspective is this is a running back oriented show when we speak of Le'Veon Bell. And of course, now your incredible topic, Mel, about the devaluation of running backs. Obviously, the Elks to me is comical. The kids thing with birth control, I never thought I'd see birth control mentioned on one of these shows, but
Lack of. Yes.
but I will say this.
The lack of.
I have to say this over at the Media Studios. I did an interview with somebody over there who's one that I'll be coaching, and this woman has one child, and I asked her, okay, how many Labor Days have you had? She said, only one. No, you got to don't forget about the Jerry Lewis telethon in September. And she ended up with 2. And she was laughing so hard. It's like, and then Edwin's like, where did this one come from? Where all the other ones have come from? And you even scratch the surface here. And, you know, it's just, and then I kidded around with the woman and mentioned the Lion King. Hakuna Matata is no worry. But as long as you're working with me, do as you're told and do as you're instructed, we'll be all right. She walked away, and she's actually due back for another coaching session later this week. So
That's great.
some very unique topics here tonight, but that's what makes Inside the Pigskin, the magazine show that it is. We'd like to have contribution from everybody. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to let Brian. All right, Jeremy.
I think you're going to see running backs catching more passes. Yes, if you look at, you see that more and more every year because they get a person with that skill set who's a better receiver than they are a runner, and that's where they
miss in space. They're better making people miss in space, in small spaces and in large spaces. They're better making people miss.
Right.
I think one of the best all-purpose. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I think one of the best all-purpose backs I've ever seen was James Wilder, formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Oh my God, this guy can do everything. I know that there's a lot, and then everybody wonders what would have happened if Barry Sanders became a receiver to go along with what he did. Well, we'll never know.
But, if he played with or if he had the Cowboys' offensive line.
Yeah, again.
Yeah, well, actually, he was asked about that, and he said, "I didn't want to play with linemen that big because it's harder to fit between them."
Well, it's funny, but again, this goes back to all those smart, all those smart guys, all those fantasy football guys. Like anyone who plays fantasy football and sees all those advanced analytics these days knows what I'm about to get into when you talk about yards per touch. That's basically what they've done. They video gamed this. That's what they've done. They made this into just a video game. I'm in the back room just figuring out, hey, if I can get this guy this yardage in space instead of handing the ball off, I just throw it to him over the line of scrimmage, 1 yard catch, and they get an extra yard per play. This is going to be the difference in the game. They're trying to find ways to make that work. And again, it's another way that it's making it rough for the running backs who aren't as versatile. Like if you have that guy that is versatile and can do both things, then you're talking about those top end guys who may have a chance of getting paid, and there's no guarantee there even. But yeah, those are those guys. Otherwise, you're going to have all those specialists, we'll call them, who will get paid, $3-5 million in a season, but they can catch passes well and still get you 3 yards a pop.
Unless they come up with at some point in time that yardage you can get 2 for 1 or something like that. Emmitt Smith's rushing record is safe. Like Kareem, that record felt pretty safe. Then they came up with the 3-point shot, and all of a sudden, people started flirting with surpassing Kareem. Kareem, I don't think he ever made a 2-point shot. I think he only attempted one. So those are all 2-pointers that he made, and LeBron finally passed him. So I think Emmett, unless they come up with some kind of rule where you get 2 for 1, I think his rushing record is probably safe. We'll probably never see anybody approach that number.
Anybody play long enough to break it.
Let me ask everybody one quick yes or no question. I forgot about this. Tyreek Hill mentioned on a podcast the other day that he's going to have 2,000 yards receiving this year. Just yes or no. Jeremy, you think he's going to get 2,000 yards this year?
Probably not. I'm not saying he can't, though.
He said one word. Can't you count?
I can't do yes or no on that.
Yes or no is difficult.
He is capable of getting 2,000 yards. As long as Tua stays healthy. That's the biggest thing.
Tua's not going to stay healthy.
Wait. No, Jeremy. Okay, no, I know what your version is of the answer. I know what mine is, okay? You'd be one of those tougher people that would go out there and try to avoid questions. Oh, I can tell what a bear you'd be to interview. The man gives you a yes or no answer, not a maybe.
No, he won't.
Thank you. Okay.
No.
Jordan.
No.
Scott.
No.
Okay.
How about you,
Mel?
Yes.
Ooh. Marcus,
one of these things.
Well, luckily these shows are recorded and they are live, okay? Because we'll see if 4 of us are stupid or in Puerto Rican or Spanish terms, el stupido, because I've been called that a few times. I dated a Puerto Rican woman. How many times el stupido? And I'd really not go with the over-under on that one, but we'll leave that alone. So we got 4 against 1. We'll find out in a matter of months.
I had to go against the rain.
Am I able to at least ask one question?
Sure.
Okay.
When was the last time we saw an NFL player who had 3 concussions in one season simply not have any more for the rest of their career?
Never.
I think it's highly I highly doubt Tua's going to finish this season without getting another concussion, if not 1, if not 2. So we're talking about his backup quarterback throwing Tyreek Hill the ball.
He's been taking jiu-jitsu or something like that, learning how to fall or something.
That's cool. So do kids.
He better invest in second skull. They're using it in college and high school. It has already reduced concussions by 40%.
Okay, you're right. I like that. So he'll only have 1 this year. I like it.
All right, so we're doing okay time-wise, although I should point out immediately after Inside the Pigskin, we have 108 Stitches baseball talk. So let's make them short and sweet. Parting shots. Jeremy, lead off.
Okay. I heard something on 97.1 The Ticket while I was listening on the way into work. What do you think if they enacted the rule that they use in the Canadian Football League to help get running backs to speed a little faster, allowing them to start to run forward like the gunner in arena football? So they're at full speed by the time they hit the line and the ball is snapped. What do you guys think?
Running backs do that too? I thought it was the wide receivers when they run around.
It's running backs in the CFL. It's arena football league. It's wide receiver.
Yeah, I think anything to help the running back is great. I'm not saying necessarily to help the offense. I'm just talking about helping the running back, because I think the game right now is geared towards obviously the passing game. I mean, because that's what, chicks dig the long ball. So that's what the NFL is trying to do. They're trying to gear this game towards the passing game.
Okay, that's interesting. I gave him a parting shot, and he's asking us questions. Boy, I'll tell you, I can tell he's gone out there and done his own thing for a long time, but he's awfully good at it. Okay, do you expect everybody to answer that question?
I'm against anything that puts the defense at a disadvantage. I'm all defense right now. I don't care if the game ends 7.
You don't like that idea.
Yeah, I don't care if the game goes 7-10. I'm here for it. Show me good defense.
I will never be happy with a 3-10 or a 7-10 Super Bowl ever again.
I was happy. I love it. That was a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Those are the kind of games I like. Slugfest, old fashioned.
Who else wants to answer that question?
I got nothing to say about it.
The only thing I'll say is this, okay? The Canadian Football League is like Canada. It's far and wide, and that's all I have to say. All right, Travis, you had a parting shot?
Yes, my parting shot was Sophia Chepanik. She's a lacrosse player who signed an NIL deal back in April. And she was one of the first female college athletes to sign a lifetime NIL deal. So it basically gave her company equity uh, in the company that basically signed her to the deal. And I know no one pays attention to it because it's lacrosse. But the point wasn't that it was a women's sport. The point wasn't that it was lacrosse. The point was people are signing lifetime NIL deals. Now that opens up an entirely new world of an entirely new bag of money, an entirely new world of way of thinking about these things. So whether or not these kids go pro, whether or not these football players are able to, secure the bag in the NFL, they may have a potential, chance to make something of themselves simply on their name and likeness in college for a lifetime bill, lifetime equity in a company. That's dope. That was something that I felt like was maybe a game changer just in these negotiations between these kids and these corporations. Those, especially those bigger ones who may not. Maybe the company doesn't have the money, but it's a little company named Netflix that I can get an NIL deal from for 1% or 0.1% of the company. That sounds like a great deal. 10 years into the future. So I like the
I'll take that
new
deal
pot of
from
money. Yeah,
Amazon.
I like the new pot of money that this opens up.
What university was that at?
Where was she? I know she was from Jacksonville because I saw it in a Jacksonville newspaper. If you can bear with me a moment, I can get it for you though.
No, it's no problem. I'm just wondering.
No, it's a big deal,
That's
Travis.
definitely out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
You'll see, University of South Florida, USF.
Oh my
Women's lacrosse
She's
team.
a bull.
How about them Bulls? My
about
goodness.
How ironic is that?
Yeah, how ironic. A night in a Bulls.
Our host, Scott, graduated from there. My parting shot is just a simple one. The Lions, you really screwed this one up. You're supposed to have 18 to 20,000 fans come on a nice Sunday or Saturday afternoon to Ford Field in August near the end of training camp. What'd you do? You had to cancel it because you booked a World Wrestling event. SummerSlam. Money talks. Money talks. Even Sheila and the Ford management gave in, and they're bringing a wrestling event, and the 18 to 20,000 fans will not have the opportunity. Now, granted, a few of those fans, Jeremy's going to say this, I know, a few of those fans will go to see them in individual workouts and practice sessions open to the public, but a lot of them won't, because a lot of them bring bigger groups with them and a family with them to Ford Field. And that's a shame that they're just throwing that right down the tubes, the Lions in 2023.
Oh, what is that? They get an opportunity to watch them practice, or what is
Yeah,
it?
they've called it the Family Fun Fest.
Fun Fest. There's things for the kids to do. There's souvenirs being sold, refreshments, and the team basically is running through an organized workout.
They can't do that in Allen Park?
They can, but they don't have enough room, Mel, to get those kind of big crowds like they do at Ford Field.
Well, you said 15, 16,000. I mean, they should be. They can't accommodate 15, 16,000 in Allen Park. I mean, I've been there only once.
7,500 at Allen Park. So
the Silverdome is this still up, or did they implode it?
No, that's gone.
That's been imploded. Matter of fact, it was funny.
They could have gone to Wayne State, Adams Field at Wayne State.
See? Got to think outside the box.
That's right.
When they first, you're going to like this one, Mel. When they first tried to destroy the house that Barry built, the Pontiac Silverdome,
it didn't go down, right?
Right. They blew. It hopped and it landed back on the foundation and didn't fall. They had to blow it again 3 days later to set all the charges.
That's the curse of Wayne Fonts.
One strong building.
Wayne Fonts. Well, he might have cursed it.
That's all right.
I don't have a parting shot today, Scott.
All right. Well, the only thing I'll say is because of Jeremy Bulrock and my wife Candy, I didn't do any sports over the weekend. Can you believe that? You know where I opted to go? My wife thought I was taking her to Key Largo, but no, yours truly, the marathon man, wasn't settling for a 90-minute drive. So I decided to go 4 hours to Key West. And, I'm not going to get many of these weekends where I'm not going to do a whole lot. But I saw a little window to do it. And, it was pretty neat. I got to tell you, if you're ever in Key West, we went on a sunset cruise, and it was unbelievable. So George Eichhorn, thanks for filling in for me on Basket Bros. But that was fun.
You're welcome,
Not
sir.
doing anything on the weekend was something I wasn't used to, and I probably better not get too used to it anyways.
It was crazy getting pictures from Candy instead of Scott.
Well, no, she wanted to make sure that you were getting them, that she was enforcing it, that I didn't do anything.
I know. I thought it was great because I
Yeah,
thought
it's
this Sunday should be social media free for you.
Yeah, well, all I know is it was one weekend. It wasn't long enough. I enjoyed my time at Key West, and believe it or not, for whatever it's worth, we didn't have a hotel there. I kept driving. Luckily, I know that island well. We stayed at the Truman Hotel down there. It was a pretty cool place, by the way.
Awesome.
Wasn't it hot down there, Scott, though?
It's hot all over these parts, George, yeah. But when you're near the southernmost part of the state of Florida, which is big, yeah, it's really, really hot. All right, well, that said, Key West was the flavor of the weekend one. So let's go around the horn here. Everybody will have a chance to see how they get a hold of us. Once again, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk follows. We lead off with Jeremy.
Well, you can find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com, where you can find my writings under the Motor City Tribune, honey, underneath guys like Scott Morganroth and George Eichhorn. And I think there's another guy above me that I don't know yet, and I got to meet him someday. That being said, you can also find me on my channel, Kneecap Biting with the Detroit Lions. I do my NFC North review tomorrow night, then the Lions Fan Cave chat on Friday. You can find me on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, where I can be on pretty much all week long with Scott. I got 3 days this week I know of so far. Today, tomorrow, and the next day, correct?
Absolutely.
And then on Let's Talk Sports, Friday nights at 8, I have my interview show where I interview podcasters and former NFL athletes, and then I do the same thing again at 2 p.m. on Sunday. And eventually, The Professor and Pupil will be airing again on Sundays at 10 a.m.
There you go. Yeah, it'll be a good show. I just have to put together a couple Sundays when I'm not busy doing baseball, things like that. So, all right, Travis, we go to you.
You can find me on Twitter, Trav Likes Bacon. You can find me on Threads and Instagram and Facebook, Travis D. Holmes. You can find me on. You can find my writings on BigCatCountry.com, the Jacksonville Jaguars SB Nation fan site. And throughout the season, you can find me in the press box covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for A7BN Sports and student of the game media. And if you're looking for more of this beautiful face on podcast, you can find me here every week inside the Pigskin. Let's go.
You're been a very valuable addition since I caught up with you up in Jacksonville. Glad to have you part of the team. Okay, Mel.
Find me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Okay. And turn over to George.
Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. I'm the author of the book. Scott's in the book as well, interviewing Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And I'm also a writer, as Jeremy said, along with him and Scott and others at the South Florida Tribune, the Motor City Tribune. You can find a link to the book at the end of my columns. Also, you can reach me on Yahoo, of course, at gicorn.com. You can see me on 108 Stitches and when Scott needs me on Sports Exchange, of course, and this wonderful show, Talking Football. And you can also read me in the Detroit Monitor locally in the paper.
And finally, just to let everybody know one more time, in case you're joining us, that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Well, go to the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And coming up later this summer, the Motor City Mad Mouse Show will be debuting on the Eagle Corp Movie Studios in Boca Raton, owned by Dr. Edwin Hernandez, who will be my co-host. We'll keep you posted. Eagle Corp is a technology-based company for which I am the president of broadcasting for that. And I am now currently in the process of writing a book. That book is Adjusting to New Media. So on behalf of my crew, Jeremy Balrack, Travis Holmes, Mel Farr Jr., George Eichhorn. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth, Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108. No, 100 inside the pigskin. We'll caught up there with my balls there. I knew that was a matter of time. Inside the pigskin, 108 stitches. Baseball talk is next. So great job, everybody. Glad you can join us. We'll catch you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.